Fear does not exist in this amateur review, does it?
No, Sensei!
Pain does not exist in this amateur review, does it?
No, Sensei!
Defeat does not exist in this amateur review, does it?
No, Sensei!
A man confronts you, he is the enemy. An enemy deserves no amateur review. This is Cobra Kai. It's a continuation of the Karate Kid story some 30 years later. We get to find out what Daniel and Johnny are up to. It started out as a YouTube series, but now it is moving to Netflix. Apparently they like the color red. Now, I must warn you, there will be spoilers contained in this, because otherwise I can't really talk about the show much. So, if you haven't seen Cobra Kai yet, go watch it and then come back and watch this. Or I'm going to sweep the leg. This show is like a crane kick to the face of awesomeness. I really like what they've done with it. They took the idea that Johnny isn't fully the bad guy and Daniel isn't fully the good guy and played in those shades of gray. It presents them and their rival dojos of Miyagi-Do and Cobra Kai as yin and yang respectively. I like that we get to see a different side of Johnny, both as a guy who's trying to make ends meet and kind of find himself in the world that he doesn't feel like he really fits in, but also as a young boy who is really shy and has a bit of a jerk of a stepfather, and so he needs some sense of family and some friends, and he finds that in Cobra Kai. It's also interesting that this show ends up showing that Cobra Kai and Miyagi-Do can both help kids in different ways and provide them with something within themselves that they might be missing. For example, I mentioned that Johnny was a bit of a shy kid, and so he needed the more aggressive Cobra Kai to help him balance that out. On the other hand, in Karate Kid 1, we see that Daniel is a bit of a hothead, and so he needs the more calming Miyagi-Do to help balance him out. And we also get to see this play out in the next generation of students. We are introduced to Miguel, who's also a shy kid, and he needs Cobra Kai to help give him some confidence, and we see that that ends up working out for him. We're also introduced to Robbie, who's a bit of a hothead as well, and continuously gets himself in trouble, and he's also Johnny's son. It isn't until Robbie meets Daniel and ends up taking up Miyagi-Do that he starts to find that balance as well. I like that it presents Cobra Kai and Miyagi-Do as two sides of the same coin. You get to see that really there are two approaches to karate, and they both have validity to them. You know, there are students that benefited from Cobra Kai, and there are students that benefited from Miyagi-Do, and it seems like the students that benefit the most are the ones whose personalities kind of run opposite to the dojo that they end up in. I also like that in this series you get to see Johnny as more of the protagonist, while Daniel is at times a bit of an antagonist. Barney must surely be happy about this development. Something else I find really interesting is that with Miguel, we see that his story is very similar to Daniel's. He's a boy that's getting bullied in school and finds a karate teacher that lives near him that teaches him karate and helps him overcome the bullies. However, he also has similarities to Johnny, as the shy kid that gains confidence from taking Cobra Kai. The same could be said about Robbie. Like Daniel, he's a bit of a hothead that needs Miyagi-Do to calm him down. However, like Johnny, he also ended up in the wrong crowd that steered him the wrong way. And so, we also find out that Johnny and Daniel are also a lot like each other. There's a scene where they bond over cars in REO Speedwagon, and it's a great scene. They later end up in a bar talking with each other, where they realize that they have more similarities with each other than they would have previously thought. That scene is really just a great scene, and it's one of my favorites from the entire series so far. There's another scene where they both end up in the same restaurant on accident and end up sitting with each other at the kind of the behest of the women that they're with. In this case, Johnny is on a date with Miguel's mom, and Daniel is with his wife Amanda. So the two women kind of help be like the voice of reason for them and try to push them together and really just get over the 30 years of animosity that these two have for each other. And they begrudgingly, agree to this, but as time goes on and they start to loosen up, again, just like the scene in the bar, they find that they really do have similarities and can actually enjoy talking and spending time with each other. And, by the end of the night, they're all out there on the dance floor having fun with each other. And it's like the show kind of teases us with this idea that, if these two guys could just kind of get over themselves and put that animosity aside and, kind of get past their history, that they could actually really be good friends. And I think that's something that hopefully we get to see play out in future seasons as the show goes on. This kind of, teasing a little bit of this friendship between Johnny and Daniel. Another running theme of this show is that how a lack of communication causes a lot of problems. We see this with Miguel and Sam, Johnny and Robbie, Johnny and Daniel, Miguel and Daniel, Robbie and Daniel, even Miguel and Robbie. A lot of the interpersonal conflicts that we run into in this series are ones that could have been easily solved with just a simple conversation or, happenstance of like someone showing up a minute later or a minute earlier or things like that. There's so many issues in this show that just come down to, bad timing, lack of communication, and I feel like that really kind of makes it interesting because then us as the audience, we get to see this and kind of be like, oh man, if only he'd been there like a minute earlier or a minute later, or if only they had this opportunity to talk to each other, that situation could have gone a lot better. I think season 1 laid a great foundation and season 2 built upon that. There's a great cast of characters, wonderfully acted by, both the older generation and the new generation that came in. And one thing I really like about this show that I think Cobra Kai has done better than maybe anyone else that I've seen is that, yes, they bring in a new generation, but they didn't just throw the old generation aside, right? Like, this isn't a case where, you have to lock, Daniel and Johnny on some deserted island so that the new cast can shine. No, they allow time for both. I mean, everyone that's a Karate Kid fan, they want to know about Johnny and Daniel's story. That's important. But, they also want to know about this new generation. And so I think, things like Star Wars, like they really could have taken, lessons from Cobra Kai in terms of like how to balance out this idea of having a new generation, but then also incorporating the old generation into that. Like, it's so well balanced on this show between the old cast and the new cast, and giving adequate time to both, but then also showing how both interact with each other. And it just takes a story in so many ways. And, for those of you that are also like Star Wars fans, like just how they almost had to kind of hide away the older characters so that the new characters could have a chance to shine. It works out so poorly in that. And, you end up spending most of like the 7th movie just waiting for Luke Skywalker to show up, and then they show him at the end for like a minute and nothing. And it's like, yeah, like, you don't have to kind of throw away your old characters. Like, there's a way you can appreciate history, but then also kind of look to the future. And I think Cobra Kai balanced that really well, more so than a lot of other mediums and series out there. So great job on them for that. So season 2 did kind of end on a bit of a cliffhanger. So, and with the move to Netflix, that's caused delays from releasing season 3. So we're all just kind of impatiently waiting to see where the show is going to go and how those storylines are going to get wrapped up. But yeah, so far it's been a great ride, and hopefully it just continues to get better.
This has been a No Mercy amateur review. Sweep the leg!
Oh, and strike first, strike hard, no mercy, sir.